Good evening, traders. This is Tanner with Charting Options. It is Saturday, October 9th. I hope you've had a great weekend to this point, assuming you get one. But regardless, I hope you've had a good time away from the screens. Something that's so important to recharge our batteries going into the next trading week. It can be so chaotic Monday through Friday when we have our hard-earned money invested in various different trades. So it is just so important to get away and do things that you enjoy outside of the chaos of trading. Though I know there is a lot of preparation and planning that goes into the new trading week. I am no stranger to that, but that is partly what I am here for. With that being said, I intend to go over Friday's trade idea of the day, which involved MGM. I want to just break down the flow, break down the technicals, and then break down some fundamental pieces that I have found since entering the trade myself. This was some great call flow that came in on Friday morning. It ended up being on CNBC's halftime report Friday afternoon. So it got a little pump Friday afternoon by the Nigerian brother, or one of the Nigerian brothers, Pete Nigerian, who is one of the OGs, the original smart money, big money followers. Him and his brother have been doing it for many, many years. And he alluded to some bullish bets that were coming across for MGM and that he had a position. And so do most of us, I would assume, after me posting the flow and it becoming the trade idea of the day. So I'll just quickly mention the flow, which is up on your screen right now. We'll go over the technicals. We'll look at the daily chart, the weekly chart, the monthly chart. I think they're all relevant for this trade. And then, as I alluded to a minute ago, we'll go over some fundamental pieces that I have since located. So 10:30 a.m., 10:38 a.m. to be exact, we had a $2.15 million call sweep above the ask come through for MGM for November 19th, $44 call. It was in the money at the time, in the money 2 to 3% at the time for almost 7,000 contracts. This was tied directly to, and we can, that is an assumption, so I just want to kind of make that be known, but a dark pool print came in 43 seconds later, so less than a minute later. So I think it's fair to assume that this was tied to a dark pool print. That dark pool print was for 750,000 shares. So we had big smart money come in, buy a huge chunk of shares, and make a call bet with it, which you really like to see if you're attempting to follow some smart money into a play. So a little bit later, we had the same strike paid for about an hour later, 55,000. I'd assume that, maybe this was Pete Nigerian himself. I don't know, but I would assume this is just a follower of this big flow. And we know this big flow. Well, we know a couple things right away because of Black Box and their color coding system, which is so valuable. But we know that the open interest coming into the session was lower than this whole sweep size because of the yellow. So the yellow implies that the size of the sweep, so the amount of contracts purchased just for this one sweep, exceeded the entire open interest for that day. And I have that right here, and we can see that from E-Trade's option chain that is in fact true. Not only is that true, so this was the $44 call. We had about 7,000 come in, right? Well, we can see this is the November 19th $44 strike, and we can see that Friday's volume was nearly 13,000, and coming into the day, the open interest was 601. So the 7,000 calls that I just mentioned for $2 million, they came in one chunk, exceeded the open interest just with that sweep. So therefore, the color coding is yellow. That implies that those are new contracts. That was someone purchasing. That transaction was a purchase by somebody. And that because it's above the ask, because it's such the magnitude of size is so large, and because it was tied to a dark pool print of pretty good size, it's it checks a lot of boxes to assume that big smart money is making a big bet that MGM is going to go higher over the coming weeks. So I really want to just point out that roughly 13,000 volume on Friday. Maybe some of that was, or some of that probably washed hands throughout the day. We'll check to see what the open interest is come Monday, but I would assume it's probably going to be somewhere around 10,000, and from there we can kind of monitor, along with following black box stocks and what comes in at the bid or below the bid. But we can monitor when this whale leaves based off of volume and an open interest. Okay, so with that being said, immediately the flow was follow worthy, so I posted it. But then after peeping the chart, which I have the daily chart up here, I got a lot more interested in the trade. So therefore, it became the trade idea of the day. So I just want to quickly look at the technicals and show you that MGM itself has been working through a base over spanning since February. So once price cleared February, this 36 mark, you can see it came up, tried to clear it, pulled back, tested it a bunch, and then finally got through on some expanding volume. Prices stayed above that point for the following 6 to 7 months. So price has been basing between or above 36 and below 44. We can see was resistance in June and pushed it back down, came back up, tried it again at the end of August, beginning of September, pushed back down, and all while following a trend line here. It created a series of higher lows from the trend line from a bullish gap in November. So we talk about this a lot, but the low point off of a bullish gap, even a bearish gap, often creates a trend line in the future. And here we can see that represented well. So price is now pinched into this area below 44, or had pinched into this area below 44 and above 36, but also now creating a series of higher lows. And at the end of September, price cleared it. Price cleared the 44 mark on high volume. So you can see price came up and tested it on the 22nd on above average, well above average, almost double average volume. And then the following day, almost just a little bit less volume, it did the same thing. And then the day preceding, which was a red day, but was clearly a day that someone came in and purchased off the trend line, was also above the average volume. So we had 3 days in a row where it was almost double the average volume, which pushed price above 44. And 44, guys, isn't just a key point in 2021. 44 is huge resistance. So before I get into what I mean by that, I just want to also say that, so since that time, price has basically traded sideways and consolidated and continues to hold that 44 mark. And if it continues to do that, this setup becomes extremely bullish. So basically what we have is, if I just broaden this a little bit, just so your eyes can see, maybe I'll tighten it. The width might be a bit much, but you can see that we have this really long base where price is just trading sideways, and then it started creating a series of higher lows. Now price is just slowly starting to move out. So it has broken the base, but it hasn't technically broken out yet, which is what I think whoever put that big bet on the line is hoping it does. So if we look at the so that's the monthly chart. So we can see the same thing on the monthly chart or the weekly chart here. This green horizontal line marks 44. We had an inside week this last week where price came down and tested 44 with a low of 43.97, so 3 pennies below, and it bounced. So this is our second consecutive week following the break above 44 where price has now remained above 44, but this is the first week where it's actually used it as an area of support to close an inside week. So assuming price can continue to do that, the setup looks very bullish. And I want to now just demonstrate the last time that price cleared 44 was at the end of 2006. So we're talking 15 years ago, guys. This is the monthly chart I have up here, and I know I shared this on Friday. But you can see that price traded sideways in 05 and 06, just below the 44 mark. Price finally cleared it at the end of 06 and went on to move 115% the following year. So less than a year, almost. I want to say almost 9 months. It moved to a peak of 115% roughly. Now, I'm not here to say that's going to happen, but I just want to show you the significance of this 44 mark as a pivot, a long time pivot to the upside. Now, in the same breath, I know I had mentioned that we have a trend line from the May 2009 high that price has been rejected at. It was rejected in 2010, 2014, again in 2018, and then earlier this year, price has been rejected at this ascending trend line. So this has acted as a channel top, so to speak. And price now is continuing to hold above 44, or as I've mentioned, but also just below the trend line. So if this trend line can get broken, that would be quite a breakout in itself, which is confluent with the 44 pivot. So there's a lot to like here, guys. If price can get above and stay above this trend line, assuming that it also stays above 44. So that would mark quite an upside move. And I guess, we have some history to go off of. I'd have to look at some fib extensions, but I would say the 50 psych mark would probably be the first target above, assuming price is able to get above this trend line. So we went over the flow. Flow looks great. We went over some technicals. The technicals look great. I do want to mention that volume has been building the last couple of weeks. Nothing crazy, but someone did come in on the clearance of 44, or some ones, should I say, and pushed volume on the weekly quite above average, which I showed on the daily. All that to say, I also want to just show that all while MGM cleared 44 and has been trading sideways, SPX has been in a downtrend, a short-term downtrend. So we're showing great relative strength at the same time. Let me just make this back to what it was. You guys can see a little bit better. But you can see here, while prices traded sideways, the market, and even prior to that, MGM has held up really well in the storm. Now, there's two things I want to mention fundamentally. One is MGM is set to release their earnings. Let me zoom this in a little bit. At the beginning of November. So Wednesday, November 3rd, and after market close. So if you are in the November 19th expiration, please be mindful of earnings. I'm not sure. I don't know fundamentally too much about what their guidance was from the previous quarter and what they're anticipating coming into this quarter. So I would do your due diligence on that leading up to, assuming you continue to hold these contracts. That is quite a while. It's almost an entire month. Maybe we'll be out of the position by then. Because I think what potentially could truly be the catalyst is this article right here. So this came out on Thursday, and this is a Yahoo Finance article. And essentially what it explains is BetMGM, which is the online component of MGM for legal betting, is essentially not fully owned by MGM Resorts themselves. It is half owned with this company Entain. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. But Entain is in talks with DraftKings to sell or to be bought out of their entire company. That is $22.4 million, or billion with a B, buyout offer from DraftKings, or at least it's from Entain. I don't know the specifics of the negotiation. But with this potential purchase by DraftKings, this buyout of Entain, MGM is desiring that they gain full control of their online platform, BetMGM. Now, I don't know the semantics of how that would happen, but all I do know is that DraftKings themselves have until October 19th, so 10 days from right now, to officially make a deal with Entain for a buyout, and therefore MGM to gain control, majority control of BetMGM, which, as we know, the gambling sector not only has seen some bullish legalities over the last year or so, or since COVID has come down, in terms of the prolific acceptance of sports betting. So we know how big BetMGM could be in terms of, just like DraftKings and FanDuel and a few others. I know Wynn has their own platform. All of the casinos really have jumped on train, but we can only imagine what kind of, I guess, fundamental development gaining full control over BetMGM would be for MGM themselves. So I don't know. Obviously, this is all speculation. I don't know if the call buyer on Friday is aware of this and maybe is aware of some sort of development that could occur prior to October 19th, or if it is an earnings bet that they had placed and just going out to November 19th this early in time looks less suspicious, so maybe they're betting on earnings. We will follow the open interest to see that. We'll also follow the open interest around October 19th to see if it was for this, and this being the potential control over the entire BetMGM, or if this was just a technical bet, because the technicals are really great just the same. So, I'm a little winded, but that was 3 parts to explain kind of the setup with MGM. I guess I'll just close by saying I really want to see 44 hold. If 44 can hold, it'll make this trade just a lot easier. But I will say, considering everything I just mentioned, I don't plan on really leaving the trade until that whale leaves the trade, because I believe they know something with all of the potential development upcoming over the next month. I do want to just show the 50 and the 20 SMA, which are key indicators for an intermediate trend. And we had a bullish cross at the beginning of September, and now we have both stacked sequentially, which we want to see following the cross. Prices above the 20, which is great. That means we're in a short-term uptrend, which we want to be a part of. And they're both rising, which is also great to see. So if we can continue to see both of these rise, that means the price is also rising. And we do have some RSI bullish divergence, so it looks like maybe price might come down and test the trend line of the RSI bullish divergence in the upcoming sessions. Maybe not, but there is a lot of room overhead if this wants to really break out. So if you're looking for a level to hold, 44 would be ideal. But I mean, technically speaking, I'm okay with price even coming down to the trend line. Does that mean my entry is now worse? Yes, without a doubt. But that is the nature of swinging, and that is the nature of following options flow into a trade. We don't know their intent. We don't know how long they intend to be in the position. So a lot of unknowns potentially come with having more flexibility in the trade. Now, with that being said, I just want to reiterate, they took the 44 call. I took the 45 personally. It was a little cheaper. And it was essentially at the money by the time I purchased it. But regardless, I don't think it really matters. But all that to say, I am pretty optimistic that this trade will work out in some fashion. Whether or not it'll be a home run, I don't know. But it is somewhat set up for that, guys. So we'll see how it works out. I hope this video helps. And I certainly intend to do more videos based around the trade idea of the day and based around call flow that comes through that we follow going forward. And I have a lot more over the next few hours and tomorrow to post, so be looking for that. Have a great night. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.